be modified. So the thing is, you get theories that are very well established and that work very, very well, and you can use to make predictions. Do they ever give you certainty? No, but science doesn't deal with certainty. And really, you can't have certainty in pretty basically anything. And a lot of people don't want that. They want certainty. Sometimes they delude themselves into thinking they have it. The thing is, how you can know things, by making observations and learning, and this gets a little into philosophy. Some of you might have heard the term epistemology, and epistos is basically the word knowledge, and that's what, what do these techniques do? No, it's not what I wanted to do. Oh, wait a minute, there's a guy that does technique distribution, that's right. He can mention what these things do. There's the guy that does that. I don't have the instruction book. Like I say, I'm playing this on an emulator. It's been years since I had played this, so here's the guy that does that. He can tell me what these techniques do. Oh, that's right, that's what this is. So those are healing texts. So maybe Rever is Res and Fever. Oh, those are probably healing ones. Okay, and then the order text. Still don't remember what these are. Like I said, I'm gonna have to look this up, but nothing wrong with grinding the characters in the meantime. But yeah, I am kind of playing semi-blind, so I don't know what this does. So, hey, you gotta look it up. And, that's funny when we don't understand things in sciences. People are so reluctant to look it up. And I'm like, well, why? Looking it up is what we do. So I'll go back over there and do a little bit of grinding. And that's the thing, is that you have to be able to test things. There are different ways of knowing things. Different ways of knowing things that people talk about, but generally the way you know things in science is by testing them. So let's kill off the two little chirpers. This is my first planned battle, rather than I just let them attack us as they will. There are different ways of knowing things. There's certainly, as we talk about wisdom. As a matter of fact, I saw online a guy talk about wisdom through knowledge of tomatoes. Knowledge is knowing that it is a tomato. Wisdom is knowing that it's not the kind of thing you mix into a fruit salad. Although technically, and that's one of the funny things about biology, is that them being called fruit, actually the difference between fruit and vegetable is more of a culinary thing. And yes, there is a thing called food science, but the point is, it's not really a technical thing. It's not really something you learn. Technically, a tomato is a fruit, but it's not a sweet, it's not a really sweet fruit. It's more of what they call a savory fruit. So it's something you use in savory dishes. Although I have heard of people talk about savory foods like beef steak, but they'll talk about putting apples with beef steak would actually be pretty good. Sometimes even sweet and savory do complement each other. And just to know the difference between sweet and savory, there is such a thing as a savory cheesecake that you put together with things like salts and stuff like that as compared to sugars. But you just got to go into you just got to go into things recognizing that there's different ways words are used. The average person uses the word theory when what they really mean is hypothesis. And that's a given. And I actually would snap people on that. But I mean, I don't want to lose friends over it and whatnot, so I'm not going to push it. And I'm going to try her techniques. And hey, that's a way of doing something. Alright, res is healing. Guy res is, or GI res. G-res, I don't remember. People can tell me if I'm doing it wrong if they were to come in and listen. Might get a few listeners if I get hosted. I got my hours done that before. Might as well fight a little more since I'm doing that. Something can be both a theory and a hypothesis and a law and a fact. It can be all of the above. The hypothesis is referencing the part of it that is guessed, that is the educated guess part. It doesn't stop being a hypothesis just because you've seen a fact that backs up that hypothesis, but it doesn't really become proof either. If anybody ever watched Star Trek, one of the Star Trek films where he says, we do not really have proof here. What we have is a hypothesis that fits the facts. It hasn't really graduated into something where we've got a model and we know that the model works because we've experimented upon it, and we know from repetition that it's going to be a workable solution. So it's not yet a theory by any stretch of the imagination. But just because it becomes a theory, just because we know that the model works because we've seen it in action, alright, doesn't mean it stopped being an educated guess. The fact of the matter is, it still could technically be an educated guess, because there might be information that demonstrates that it's incorrect, at least under certain circumstances, that we just haven't observed yet. So one of the things you learn in science is that everything is okay, that doesn't cure poison either. Is it an anti? Because it didn't seem to work. Maybe it's just because it's not powerful. Well, it's also not using MP, so I don't know if it's working, but I'll just go get cured. What the heck? I know you can buy things that'll cure it. I'm trying to save the money so I can get her armor and stuff like that, but I'm probably not doing very well if it's wasting it because I got to keep spending it on cure. But I mean, hell, this is just grinding. It's just having fun with the game and whatnot. I talk about these things. But we've developed a model for how matter works. We've learned that matter is never created or destroyed. I think that's Newtonian principle. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'll probably look it up and find that. It's incorrect. But the fact of the matter is, and what I've been talking about, where you hypothesize, based upon your observations, and then you test it out, and you form a model, and you test out that model and see if it works and see if it can be used to develop more practical facts. That's also called the scientific method. Yes, it is called the scientific method, and if you think of it this way, like the mad scientists like Dr. Eggman or Robotnik, particularly if you are playing Sonic the Hedgehog, because he's supposed to be kind of like the mad scientist, and that's what you can become. You can think of yourself in a model of that way. And part of my silly voice, I know it is not the way the mad scientist, because I could be Dr. Bunsen Honeydew from the Muppets, who's supposed to be kind of like your scientific thinker as well. Bunsen and by the way, Bunsen was a person too. So when we talk about a Bunsen burner, that's again another eponym. It's a person. And then of course he has an assistant Beaker, who the name Beaker is supposed to be like he's a beaker that you use in a laboratory. That is not someone's name originally. Now, yes, his name is Beaker, but that was based. The two names of those Muppets came from equipment, but that one particular piece of equipment there, I canceled correctly. Good. Now I got it. That one particular piece of equipment, Bunsen, which is his name, came from a person whose name was Bunsen, and that's the Bunsen burner. But a beaker is not an eponym. There's no person. I think that comes from some English word. I'm not sure what the etymology of it is. Oh, and that's a good way to understand things. Just look up their etymology. And people are like, well, what's etymology? Etymology is the history behind a word, how it came about. And sometimes understanding the eponym, the person who did it, is a way of understanding the history of how the word came about. I never got into the metric thing. I got more into the philosophy of science. If I had people in the room, I could have people who direct me to do, go certain areas and that sort of thing. But never room yet. Again, people can, potentially listen to me live or just lurk and listen to me in the background. And hopefully they'll learn a thing or two. I never really finished up the units of 10 and the different thing about how we have, again, we've got the basic unit, like meters, and then when they're times 10, that's decameters, and then when there's 10 times 10, which is 100, those hecto, and then 10 times 10 times 10 is kilo. You probably won't actually hear those quite a lot. You don't have enough words. Use a shield. Okay, so the next thing up is so I have to grind for that. No, I didn't want to. I gotta sell it back. And probably can't do as much, so I probably lost. You know what? He can actually use it. Well, no, I don't want it right now. Well, now. Hang on, I can move it. What the heck. I can use my meseta to get her the boots. So now I know where they are. This is the town, so I'll grind around this town for meseta for boots for her. I think she can use them, and if not, I'll use my bio. I know I would go back to the save games, but I'm sort of playing honestly here. Again, this is more about the chat and explaining things to people. So anyway, 10 times 10 times 10. Well, the next one we go up, we actually hop times 10 to the 6th power, what we would call in English the millions place. It's 6 units to the left of the ones place. I have to try this again. Maybe I'm misusing the technique here. High-res, anti. Yeah, it does cure the poison. Okay, I did do that. Alright, so I just wasn't doing it right. I didn't have the MP. Okay, got it. Good. Just do the MP a bit. Well, anyway, after kilo, we get into 10 to the 6th power. And an easy way to remember that is, in America, we have the mega millions. Well, that's what mega is. Mega is 10 to the 6th power, or millions. So if we have a really big number, like we have 1,000 thousands, 10 times 10, 10 to the 6th power, 10 times 10, 6 times, alright, which is 6 units to the left of the ones place. That's the million, that's the mega unit. So if you see mega meters, alright, that's millions of meters. Kilometers, or kilometers, as people say. And, there are people who get into the pronunciation of that. They don't say, kilometers. They'll say kilometers. They'll insist upon that pronunciation, the correct pronunciation. If you say kilometers, focus in on the fact that you are, in fact, putting the prefix kilo together with the word meters. I'm okay with that, especially if it helps you understand the meaning better. For years as a kid, I heard the term demonstrative, and for a long time I didn't understand what it meant until somebody said to me, demonstrate if. By pronouncing it that way, I actually understood the meaning better. Okay, doesn't have enough to cure that poison, so. Go down. I know she probably lasted the poison for a little while, but I like being able to cure it. That's why notice I'm not buying the units yet, mainly because I'm focused on purchase of armor. So it's probably